Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great weekend and holiday if you're here in the U.S. and spent some time off, hopefully with some loved ones. I'm doing some drawing today. I hope you don't mind. I guess that's probably why you're here. I am got lots of drawings in the queue that I need to get through and need to crank out some drawings this week. So this is a good opportunity for me to do a little bit of that and also share with you some of the things that I do in Procreate and the tools that I use. Maybe you'll learn something along the way. That's my hope anyway. Either you'll learn something or you'll be encouraged to learn some things. I believe without um, without a doubt that drawing is a skill. It's not a uh, talent or natural born ability or anything like that. I think art is subjective or relative or whatever, however you want to call it. Um, and there's, I don't think there's any such thing as bad art. Now, there's some art out there that I've seen and I've wondered, well, wow, that's something that's like really abstract, or it looks like you know people throwing paint against the wall or whatever, and you think, is that really worth however much that painting may cost? But hey, if it's valuable to someone, then yeah, it's still art. It's still creative. It's still doing you know um, interesting to people. And I think if you have any interest at all in drawing, then you just do it, and don't be afraid or feel uh, feel a, um, feel like you can't be an artist, can't be someone who draws. Um, for years and years, I would look at other people's drawings or illustrations and think, "Wow, um, I wish I could do that." and and thinking that's not something I could do. I remember going to a talk years ago in Louisville, Kentucky, and a speaker there had used um, some hand-drawn illustrations in his talk that he commissioned from uh, a an artist, from a comic book artist, and I was just amazed. Um, I felt like, man, if I had the money, I could justify it, I would go hire this same comic book artist and have him draw me some things for my presentations and for I could use in my slides. And fast forward, it was around 2015. Um, I watched a video where someone was doing uh, stick figures and lines and arrows, and it was just as fascinating and just as engaging. And I thought, well, man, I should be able to do that. If if they can create a presentation that's just using stick figures and you know lines and arrows and shapes and it still be like really really engaging and fascinating to watch, maybe I can do that too. And so that's where I started. Early 2015 is I picked up a I had an iPad Air at the time and a $5 stylus, and I went and bought a $5 app in the App Store, and um, the rest is history. I fell in love with drawing and have been practicing at drawing ever since. And again, I feel like drawing and illustrations are just is a skill that anyone can learn. Um, it, no two people are going to do it the same way, or it's going to look the same way, and that's okay. That's part of why it's so interesting and amazing is that each person's personality comes out in the drawings that you create. And don't be don't be ashamed or afraid to for criticism or anything like that. As soon as I started drawing, I started putting that stuff out on social media uh, and getting you know mostly encouragement. Even though I knew they were terrible drawings, they still were fun to look at. Um, Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be. Thanks for joining the stream. I've been blabbing on for now 5, 6 minutes, and you're here to watch me draw. So let's get into doing some drawing. And again, if you have any questions or anything along the way, something you want to ask me, comment on what I'm doing or whatever, please put that into the comments, and I will um, answer any questions you have, and or try to give you any advice or encouragement that I can. Um, Today I've got, as I mentioned before, I've got a bunch of commissions that I need to work on, and I'm just going to start with those. So uh, I was I've got a few here that have um, are part of a set of drawings that I need to do for a company who has bought illustrations for a lot of their employees. So, Fish Pops asks, what inspires you to draw? Man, I think it changes over time. The things that inspired me to draw when I first got started was just, um, I just wanted to create silly things and, you know, get folks to laugh. Um, so I draw a lot of things based on like I'm a software developer and I'm in technology, and I do the language that I use a lot is JavaScript. I build web applications. I create tutorials. I do a lot of stuff in technology, and so what inspires me to draw, or what inspired me to draw in the first place, was to create silly things around poking fun at the technologies and stuff that I use. And computers are a challenge at times, even for folks of us who are, this is what we do every day, is sit in front of a keyboard and type in programs or whatever. Computers are frustrating. You know, computing is hard. And what inspires me to draw a lot of times is just thinking about some of those challenges. And then as I was drawing things for myself, like I wanted to draw my own avatar, and I created one. I wish I had it handy. I would show you my original avatar that I created. It was pretty crude, but I was really proud of it. I spent a lot of time on it, um, and I was happy with the result. It looked kind of like me, and I started using it in my presentations, and I used it as my profile picture on Twitter and at work, and the applications and so forth. And I became really interested in doing avatars for people. I saw other people having really cool avatars that were drawn by professional artists, and I thought, man, I would love to be able to do something like that. And so I started doing it more and more, and I started drawing avatars for people whether they asked me to or not. Sometimes I would just see someone that I liked their face, or this or a silly face that they had made, and put it on social media, and I thought, I'm going to try drawing that. And a lot of times early on it was pretty awful. Like, I've gone back and look at some of the drawings that I did when I first started drawing people's faces, And gosh, did I make a lot of mistakes and, you know, didn't know what I was doing. I didn't, I'm self-taught, so I didn't, I've learned by experimentation and just practice and doing it over and over again. And I was thinking about this yesterday. Um, I think I'm finally starting to get comfortable in my own skin, so to speak. I'm, you know, my own particular style that I've developed. I'm getting more and more comfortable in being uh, a little more loose or free, or I don't, not sure what how to put it, but yeah, I'm starting to feel a little more comfortable in the people I draw. When a lot of times, especially when I'm drawing, um, well, I'll have to say it, in drawing females who are typically very critical of what I draw that looks like them, and you know, to be I still get, you know, anxious sometimes that, hey, they're not going to like what I've created. But I'm willing to, you know, regardless, I'm willing to make changes and do what I can to make it look good in the end. To make to try to help try to make people happy with what I've created. So, um, as I've gone through before, I use Procreate as my drawing tool for doing avatars. And I've already gone through, if you are familiar with the application Procreate or, you know, would like to start using Procreate yourself, I've already done a lot of work to set up a drawing. And that usually involves, there's this button up here at the top that is for layers. And I'll create a bunch of layers that I know I will need to create an avatar. And I'll just set these up ahead of time so that I don't have to spend a lot of time going through this every single time I create a new drawing. Um, so thanks, Leanna. Yeah, it's um, it's a little challenging sometimes to um, you know to draw some folks that some of the commissions I get are challenge more challenging than others. Okay, so let's get started. I usually start with the eyes. You know, for female portraits, I usually do some type of eyelashes, and I'll do like just an outline of the bottom of the eyebrows. I'll leave the rest for uh, a color later on. And then, as I normally do, I will create a layer. This is something I've started just doing this year. Is another technique that I've been experimenting with and getting more comfortable with, and that is using Procreate's Quick Shape to draw a perfect circle for the eyes. And I will draw one, I'll duplicate it, move it over to where the other eye is, place it where it needs to go, and then I'll erase away the parts that I don't need. Then I'll combine those layers together. I think I'm going to have to put on my drawing glove because my hand is sometimes causing Procreate to do things that I don't want. Um, so there's another question. Frank asks, do you always work over a photo or do you freehand as well? Well, it depends on the type of drawing that I'm doing. If I'm doing an avatar like this, I will almost always start with the photo and draw my what I call, or what a lot of people artists call, the line art, um, using the photo as a way to trace out the main parts of the face that I want to have. And the reason I do that is to help me to go faster, and it helps me to make sure that all these facial features are in the right place and in the right proportions. I could do this freehand, but it would take me a whole lot longer and probably wouldn't have as good a results. If I was doing like a caricature where I was doing exaggerations and so forth, then yeah, I could do this freehand by looking at a photo, and but that's not the style of this particular drawing. I've also done that if I'm doing a cartoon, like say I'll take a person and I want to create something that looks kind of like an Animal Crossing style face. Well, I don't need to trace over their face to do that. I can use their face as a reference just to know, things like eye shapes and um, hair style and things like that I'm going to freehand. Um, but if you are interested in drawing, if you draw or interested in getting into drawing, I tell folks this a lot. I used to feel rather, I don't know, ashamed or something that I was doing a lot of tracing. Um, and there's no shame in tracing. That's what artists do all the time. Even if I'm drawing freehand, I'm going to draw a sketch and then trace over top of that sketch, right? So that's what even if you're doing freehand, you're still doing some measure of tracing, and that's what I encourage people to do. Is that um, using a photo, um, especially when you're doing digital art, it makes it so easy to import a photo and do some tracing over it. Use that as your starting point, and then as you get more comfortable, you can try freehand. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. There's no, regardless, there's no shame in using photos as a reference to trace, you know, to get yourself started. All right, so I've got the eyes. Maybe I'll sharpen up this some of the end points a little bit, and then I'll just do the bottom of the nose, maybe like that. Then the mouth, and then let's see, I'll do That's it for like the line art. So I'll start. This is where I'll start, and then I'll hide that photo, and then I'll use the photo that's in the corner here as a reference from this point forward. Um, the goal is to make this a likeness. Hopefully this looks like the person as well as I can get them to look. And so I'll go down here to my first layer and I'll start just layering on top, from bottom up, the different colors and shading and so forth to get the effect that I want. So this very first color is the base skin tone, and because I know I'm going to be layering on top, I don't have to be. I can be kind of sloppy with the with what I'm drawing, but I will clean up down here at the chin because I'm planning to leave this area down here open, and then I'll come up the next layer up and start adding things like eye color, eyebrow, um, and hair. So let's start with the eye color and the hair. So I'm just going to use a my standard base brown color that I use on so many drawings. A lot of these, I've got my color palette that I've tweaked and tweaked whoops, over time, and kind of landed on um, what I like is my base colors, and you know I'll add more color from there when I need to. I'll do a light brown and a darker brown in the middle. And I'll get white, add white around the eyes and the mouth. And then I'll go to the layer above the line art and add a little bit of reflection on the eyes. And then a lot of times what I do for females is I'll add a layer on top of this color layer, and I'll pick a red or whatever color might closely match um, their lipstick color. I'll just I'll do this over and over until I get it right. I'll add just a base color of red, and then maybe I will um, change the opacity of that red to bring it back some, so like I can make it more closely match the reference photo. And then I start on my multiply layers. So as you look at my layers that I've got here, you'll see that some of these have an N next to them, and that means they're a normal layer. Some of them have M, which stands for multiply, And this is what I use to multiply colors together to kind of blend colors together to make like darker skin tones, darker hair, um, lips, noses, that kind of thing. And then this layer is has SI next to it. And these are so small, you may not be able to see these on the stream, but SI stands for soft light. Or maybe it's SL. Yeah, that's SL. That makes more sense. Soft light, and that's where I'll add some highlights to the face and the hair. So I'll go this first multiply layer, and I'll choose a dark skin tone, and I'll start to add some details to the face, like the nose. Makes the lips look a little more three-dimensional instead of completely flat. And then I'll add some like dimension to the face. That. Let's see what else. Okay. And then I'll come up another layer, and this is where I'll do like shadows. I'll put a shadow under the nose, add some more depth to the face. One thing I forgot, coming back here to this color layer, is to fill in some color for the eyebrows. Okay, go back to the shadows, and then I'll pick a darker gray to add maybe some detail to the eyebrows. And then the hair. Got to close in those shapes before you fill them in. Let's see. What I'll do is I'll go to the soft light layer and add in some highlights to here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe I'll come back and erase some of these and try again. And maybe I will add another multiply layer and create even darker sections of the hair. Maybe I'll sometimes back off the opacity of the highlight layer. Just if the highlights are a little bit too harsh or too have too much contrast. Same thing with the skin tone layers. I'll back that off a little bit. And that's that's pretty close, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'll get to a point where it's like, yeah, that's about the best I can do for now. Maybe I'll send that to them and get their feedback, or maybe I'll sit on it for a while and come back and look at it again and say, oh, well, I need to add this detail or I need to change this detail, and that would make this picture work better. Um, like maybe here the chin, I got a little too carried away. Some of these shadows, maybe. So last thing is to sign it. I'll do it over here. Done. Thank you, sir. Glad somebody thinks it looks good. We will see if the owner of this image really likes it or not. All right. I will get started on the next drawing. And how are you? If you've just joined in the last 15 or 20 minutes, um, uh, oh, thank you. Um, appreciate appreciate your encouragement. I sure enjoy drawing, and I enjoy the process and the work. There was a time somewhere in the middle of drawing, like I started out drawing and doodling for my own purposes and having a whole lot of fun with it. And then I started drawing stuff for other people and having a lot of fun with it. And then somewhere in the middle, it became not quite so fun. Like it became more work. I was just, I was running into the limitations of my own skills, right? So I was drawing these avatars for people and not really knowing what I was doing and learning, it was a big learning process. And so for a while there, I was doing a lot of drawings, but sometimes not coming away really happy with the results or being frustrated with some of the encounters, you might say, with folks not being happy with the drawings that I created. But in the last year or so, I've gotten better and more comfortable, and um, my style has evolved and um, things that I've experimented with, and I'm always adding new techniques, and more folks are happier with the drawings that I create than not, and sometimes if there are tweaks to be made, maybe they're not really that hard or um, unreasonable to make, and so it's been it's been fun. It's been a quite an experience. Hello, friends. Hey, for all you folks who are joining, appreciate you dropping in and saying hello. Please do ask me questions. Ask me if there's anything you see me doing that you have a question about. Uh, please let me know. I try to um, talk through things that I do. Ah, here we go. Here's a question. How do you overcome art block? Man, if I knew that, we could both make a lot of money. Uh, so sometimes, um, as with any profession, any skill, anything that you do, um, there's just going to come times when you either don't feel like it or you can't think of anything creative or whatever. And this is I've come to recognize that this is true whether it's when I'm drawing or when I'm writing code or when need to write content for my job, um, creating a video tutorial for uh, the work that I do, whatever it may be. There's going to come times when it's like I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, or I don't feel like it, or I go through periods I call being in a funk, and I don't know if it's to be transparent if it's like borderline depression or whatever it may be, but I don't feel creative. I don't feel like that I can do much. So what I do to overcome art block, coffee helps, a good diet, um, things that you enjoy. Some techniques are spending time away from technology. I know it's crazy. We have come so attached and addicted to our phones and other devices that we can't seem to be away from them for 5 seconds. But one thing I miss about travel, and I used to do a lot of travel before COVID, speaking at engagements and going to conferences and things. Whenever I could drive to an event, driving requires a lot of attention, and you're less, you might listen to music or a book on tape or something like that, but it requires, you can't just zone out like you can when you're sitting on a plane or wherever when you've got your phone in front of you and you can just kind of stupefy yourself into thinking about. So one way I overcome art block and blocks of other types is to spend time really thinking about what I want to do with my life, what I want to accomplish, what are the next things that I need to do, and to do that, have some uninterrupted time where I just, maybe it's not about that one specific thing. Maybe it's not. My goal may not be that I want to overcome art block, but just spending time reflecting and maybe go on a walk. Maybe go if you have places to go and hike in your area, or if you want to walk around your neighborhood, or just do some things where it's just opportunity to think about some stuff. And sometimes just the littlest things can pop up, something silly that you see in a store or on the side of a road, or whatever could be that spark that helps you to go down a whole new, to mine a whole new vein of of creativity. Um, the other thing that helps me with art block is to just do the thing. It's like so many people who are writers talk about writing as a daily practice. Whether you feel like it or not, you do that thing that you want to do, and you just do it. And in the process, you can kind of uh, not force your way through, but really power your way through some of those creative uh, doldrums that you might find yourself in. Next question. Are you using first gen Apple Pencil or second gen? I am using the second gen. So I upgraded from I had the first gen iPad Pro, the second gen iPad Pro, and then I got the third generation iPad Pro with the second generation iPad Pencil or Apple Pencil. This is the game changer. Um, the I love the third and fourth generation iPad Pros because they have more screen real estate. They're smaller, but yet the screen is still the same size. They're thinner and more portable. But being able to charge your pencil magnetically up at the top rather than having that silly cap and plugging it into the side of your iPad, this is amazing. But I will say, as far as like technology goes, the first generation Apple Pencil is every bit as good as the second generation. There's no difference like in pressure sensitivity or capability or features or what you can do with an Apple Pencil. It's all about the just the overall experience of the usability of the iPad and the iPad or the iPad Pro and the second generation Apple Pencil. If you want to save some money and get a regular iPad or iPad Pro and the first generation Apple Pencil, you can still do everything that I'm doing. Um, as far as illustrating goes, there's nothing holding you back to generate incredible artwork with a regular iPad and Apple Pencil first generation. That applies to the latest versions of iPad and iPad Air. They support the Apple Pencil. The older iPads do not support the Apple Pencil. So my advice to you is if you're getting into drawing, you want to draw something, get an iPad or iPad Air and the first generation Apple Pencil. You can usually spend less than 500 or $600 investing in that, and you will have a whole lot of fun. But if this is something you do a lot and you can justify the upgrade to the iPad Pro, the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil Generation 2 is amazing. And I love the feature of being able to charge wirelessly. Have you done a comparison using iPad versus Surface Book or something? Not recently. So I tried a Surface Book, or more specifically, I tried a Surface Pro a couple of years ago. Um, I through where I was working at the time, I got a Surface Pro. I think it was Generation 4, maybe Generation 4 or 5. And this is what I found. The hardware is fantastic. So the pencil or the pen technology that Microsoft has is pretty good. Not quite as good as the Apple Pencil. Um, there's a little bit of jitter to some of the lines, but for the most part, hey, whatever you're drawing, you can produce amazing results. So the hardware, pressure sensitivity, the um, the drawing experience goes as far as the pen and everything, the Surface Pro is really great. At that time, the applications that were available for this Microsoft Windows operating system that you could run on a Surface just weren't up to par compared to the apps that you can get on the iPad. There's just no comparison. I was very frustrated and not happy with the apps that were available for Windows. So the hardware is great, applications were terrible. Since then, um, Adobe has come out with a new app called Fresco, and there's a company called Concepts that has a really great app for iOS called Concepts app that they have also made available to Windows. And there are others that have come along that have kind of filled in some gaps on the Windows operating system. So my experience trying to draw on Windows Surface 2 years ago was absolutely terrible. Today, with using something like Adobe Fresco, it might not be so bad. Um, I still love the apps that are available for iOS, and this app in particular, Procreate, that I use for drawing avatars. It is only available on the iPad, unfortunately. Um, and I love it. It is amazing. And I would not give up an iPad or, you know, I would, even if I had a Surface Book or Surface Pro, I would still want to have an iPad around to be able to use this particular app. And then further, to further answer your question, there is a guy that I follow on YouTube, Brad Calbo. He's been calling himself Brad Cowboy. It's much more memorable. I love the shift in branding that he's done. But he's got close to 400,000 subscribers on YouTube now. He's grown his channel quite a bit, and he does tech reviews on for illustrators. And so he does comparisons of hardware like Android tablets, Surface Pros, Surface Books compared to iPad, and on and on and on. He does all those on a regular basis, comes out with videos every week, and he's got videos on comparing the Surface devices with iPads and Wacom tablets and Android tablets and all that kind of stuff. And he's a fantastic resource if you want to go check out his YouTube channel, Brad Calbo, or as he's, like I said, he's calling himself Brad Cowboy. I, I need to ask him if that was because so many people kept messing up his last name. Much more memorable, Brad Cowboy. All right. Um, One more question. Other than Procreate, what would your favorite iPad apps include? Not just for drawing. Man, um, let's take a look. My favorite apps. So Affinity Designer. If you do any kind of illustration work around vectors, Affinity is kind of like a direct competitor with Adobe Illustrator. Affinity Designer is amazing and can do incredible things. Let's see. I use Twitter a lot on the iPad. Um, I have other social media apps. I have other drawing apps that are good. I just don't use them very often. Concepts is the one that I mentioned earlier. The cool thing about Concepts is you have a virtually infinite canvas. So when you're using any other type of drawing app like Procreate or Affinity or whatever, a lot of these you have to set up a document at the beginning to say, okay, this is 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels or whatever those dimensions are. Whereas concepts is they give you a canvas and you can just get as big or there's no constraints. So that app is really good for doing sketch notes because you don't run out of room. You can just keep drawing and drawing and drawing and getting bigger and bigger, however big it needs to be. Um, it's also got a lot of technical tools in it for like drafting or architecture or it's a really neat app. I just don't use it very often. And then Adobe Fresco is is really cool. Do I even have it listed here? Yeah, I don't think I have it because it's a oh, there it is, Adobe Fresco FR. It it's got a lot of features, but to unlock all the features, you have to buy a monthly subscription, and I just there's not a compelling enough reason for me to use Fresco over Procreate, but it's a really great app. I've got some note-taking tools like Good Notes and Nebo. They're great. I just end up not using them that much personally, but you may find them very, very valuable. Other apps. If you're into guitar, you like playing guitar. Here's another niche thing. Bias FX 2 is absolutely amazing. You can get any kind of pedal, any kind of amp. You can play your guitar through your iPad and make it sound like any amp, any or any pedal board. It's uh, it's fantastic and all for if you buy every pedal and every amp, I think you still pay less than $100 for the whole thing. And I used it for several years before I switched to a Line 6 pedal board. I'd go, and it is amazing. I think that covers most of it besides, just like Chrome as your browser and email and oh, the other drawing app that I use a lot is Sketches Pro. And this is what I use for a lot of my illustrations for talks that I give. So when I'm drawing slides for um, talks and conferences, I really like the uh, the pen tools that are available in Sketches Pro. A lot of the slides I do for my talks are black and white on purpose because I want, high contrast, something that's really visible. Um, and the pens that are available here, the drawing tools, it's it's a more simple app. It's easier to use. Gives me all kinds of great features and results. I like it. Where was I? Let's get back and let's do another drawing before we wrap this session up. So this fella has hazel eyes, and let's switch to the my favorite bold inker streamline ink brush that comes from BJ Dell. He's a fantastic YouTuber who does a lot of stuff with Procreate. And let's start with the eyes. I'll create a circle here. So if you draw any kind of circle-like shape, and then without lifting your pen off of the uh, surface, Procreate calls this quick shape. So it'll snap into place and turn it into a shape, and then you can make it, change size or whatever. But if you hold one finger on the screen, it turns into a perfect shape. So if you draw a square, holding down a finger turns it into a perfect square, triangle, and that kind of thing. So I'll create a perfect circle and do that one more time. Get it to the size that I want. Maybe nudge it into place. And then I'll duplicate that. Move it over here to where the other eye is. Sometimes it's hard to, you know, see. Not intended. And then I'm doing all this on a separate layer so that I can erase away the parts of the circle that I don't need. And then I'll combine these layers back together. I've got my eyes. Go. And now go ahead and draw the ears. Sometimes I exaggerate a little bit more than other times to give some drawings a kind of a caricature look to them. So there's the line art that I'll start with. Maybe I'll just clean up a few things. It's good. And then I'll come down here and start building up color. Skin tone, and then I'll start adding other colors on top of that. See, hazel. So hazel's like a combination of green and brown. So maybe I'll start with a green color and then add some brown in the middle. And then I'll go to a layer above the line art and add just a touch of reflection to the eyes. Helps to kind of focus the eyes towards, um, looking straight ahead, as well as how much white you put around the pupils, and whether you put more white to the right or the left, it kind of gives some direction as to where uh, the person is looking. And let's see, I'm going to go with a base kind of sandy brown for the hair color. Same for the eyebrows. And since this person has facial hair, I'll go up a layer, maybe choose a little bit darker brown. What I'll do is after I've added the facial hair, I will change the opacity to that layer so that the skin will, kind of bleed through, because, this person's facial hair he's got a pretty closely trimmed beard. And what I'll do is I'll add a layer above this one, and I'll set it to clipping mask. And what clipping mask does is it will, um, if you try to draw anywhere outside the um, the thing that's colored on the layer below it, then it will only show up inside that area. So I can draw out here, and it's not going to show up only when I'm drawing over that colored area, does it actually show up? So what I'll do is I'll pick a darker color here and choose this dry brush that I use a lot, and I'll just add some texture to the hair. Maybe I'll get a dark brown, and you can see the clipping mask kind of inherits the opacity of whatever the this is set to. So if I darken up this layer, they kind of um, you know darken at the both darken at the same time. So I'll leave it about there. My first multiply layer, I'll choose my skin tone, darker skin tone color. Go back to my regular brush, and you can see that the because I set the opacity of the beard down, that you can still see that skin color come through. Um, Even if I were to take this and move it below, you can still see the beard there. That might be a better spot for it anyway. So that's the skin color, and then I've got another multiply layer here for shadows, just adding a little bit more depth. And I'll also pick up darker gray, start adding some details to like the eyebrows and hair. Morning, Dave. Good to see you. Um, Good to see that you're still using my avatar that I created for you. My drawing skills have improved a little bit since I drew that one for you, but it's always a pleasure to see folks still using um, avatars that I've done for them over time. I love when I'm you know on Twitter or something, and I'm scrolling down through my Twitter feed and like, hey, that's one of my drawings. Oops, come on. Just what you're seeing me doing there is when you drag a color out from this color button, is you can use that to fill in a space. but it's got to be closed in, or otherwise it fills in the whole canvas like you saw. And now I've got my soft light layer, and I'll just add some some reflections. Oh, one thing I didn't do back here on this layer is to add some dimension there to the cheeks. Yeah, that's cool. Back to soft light, I will sometimes add a little bit of highlights to eyebrows just to kind of give them a little bit of dimension. Then highlights to the hair. And maybe I'll add one more multiply layer and create one more depth to this to the front of the hair like that. Hopefully this works. All right, folks. That's pretty much it for the day. Couple of drawings plus answering some questions. It's a good day. Um, bef- Before I release you to go back to doing whatever mundane thing that what it was that you were doing, I've had so many people uh, give me encouragement and feedback saying that that they like watching me draw, and like one person recently said, I was watching you draw, and one of my coworkers said, we got a job to do here. He's like, I'm watching this guy draw. Hang on a minute. I gotta see what he does. That's pretty fun to hear stories. People that I never would have thought would be interested in watching me draw, who pop up on later later on to say, hey, hey, I watched you draw the other day, and that was fun. Well, it is fun. It's fun for me. I hope it's fun for you. Um, I've been really enjoying this. I hope you are having a good day. I hope this time you've spent invested with me has been an encouragement or entertaining, or benefited you in some way. Hey, here's something you can do for me if you don't mind. If you like any of this kind of stuff, let me know. Let me know, either in the comments or send me a message on Twitter or Facebook. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. If Give me suggestions on something you'd like to see me do in the future, or questions you would like for me to answer. I'd love your feedback, and I would love for you to share, what I'm doing with other people. Um, Hopefully to get folks interested. And my mission in life, at least for the foreseeable future, is to encourage people to be more awesome, and that's what I want to do. In any way I can um, help you or someone that you know or someone that you love do this kind of thing where, either you're drawing or creating art or music or wanting to do coding or public speaking or any of these things that I know a little bit about that I can share what I'm doing and what I've learned so far, um, that would be such it's a big deal to me to be able to help people. And so if you share what I'm doing with other people and say, hey, you should subscribe to David Neal's or Reverend Geek's channel and watch him do these things and ask him questions. That would mean a lot for me to get a a recommendation to other folks. All right. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope that you have a blessed day. And if I don't see you again, a blessed rest of your week. And I'll see you again soon on the Twitters or the streams, or Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, wherever. Um, and maybe, even in person one of these days and we get back to doing things like we used to. So have a blessed day. See you again soon.